station.
This is WAAY 31 Law Call.
Good evening and welcome to WAAY 31 Law Call. I'm Sharon Doviet. Tonight it's Ask Us Anything night, so call in your questions on any legal topic. Maybe you're thinking about adding a swimming pool to your house, but you worry about the liability if something were to happen. Maybe you're traveling this summer and you worry about if you had a car accident, but you're in Florida. Where do you bring the lawsuit? You live here. Call in your questions. You can be live on the air, 256-536-0077. You call and be live on the air, or you can text us your question to that same number. We've got some text coming in right now. You can also email a question on any legal topic any day of the week. You send it to lawcall@waaytv.com. And when we get to a show that's on point, we pull some out. We've got some of your email questions tonight. We've also got Michael Timberlake from Timberlake, Lee & Brooks. Good to have you here tonight.
Great to be here on a Saturday, Sunday night.
Sunday night here, excuse me, here live to answer your questions live on the air.
And we'll see what we can do.
As we get some of those pulled up, let's take a look at tonight's You Make the Law Call video. So watch what's going to happen. We've got two cars that are racing high speed on the highway. It's going to come to a bad end when one of them spins out of control here and hits a third vehicle that seemed to be minding his own business. So how does it affect your claim if the at-fault driver is doing something illegal when they hit you, or if they cause somebody else to hit you? So the one that hits you was not at fault. Does that make a difference when you're watching this kind of thing? Because you guys do auto accident cases and big cases like that all the time. What do you see when you look at this?
Yeah, I mean, the scary thing is this is a high-speed incident. It's tragic, and just nothing good happens at those kind of speeds. And it's, you feel very sorry for the people that are innocent bystanders. But in a situation like this, what you're looking at is, aggravated liability. You're not talking about somebody who made a careless mistake or wasn't paying attention. This was a, conscious and
intentional,
knowing and basically intentional act that subjected somebody else to an unreasonable risk of injury and serious injury. So that takes it to another level. So in addition to compensatory damages, medical expenses, pain and suffering, lost wages, permanent injury, pain and suffering, mental anguish, the types of things that we talk about on a daily basis, you're talking about damages to punish the other driver for their knowing wrongful conduct. And that can get, very, very, very expensive for those folks doing it.
Thank goodness they had video, though, because you can imagine trying to explain to people what happened. You're in an auto accident, this mysterious car,
right?
And everybody's going, yeah, sure, a mysterious car did.
Are you end up in a situation where you're? I've had this where my clients are so injured, they're like, I don't know what happened.
Don't know what happened. Yeah.
I was going home from church and I woke up in the hospital. And then you're in a situation, so that's why, dash cameras are great. We love the ability to have that, and so, and in this case, you take, both cars, you have one car that made contact, one car that was participating in the act, and we'd argue that their actions combined and concurred to cause the injury. So even the non-contact vehicle would bear some responsibility.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about insurances.
Sure.
So my car insurance, if I borrow your vehicle,
right,
does my insurance cover me, or is your car insurance going to cover me? Do I need to make you show me your car insurance before I ever borrow your vehicle?
Right. Well, so in Alabama, typically what happens, insurance follows the vehicle. So if you're driving my car, my insurance that is on my vehicle is going to be primary, and you're going to be covered so long as you had permission to use it. Now, if you steal my car, that's a different story.
Okay.
If I leave my keys in the same spot every day, and sometimes you take my car and I don't say anything to you about it, that's permission.
Okay.
But it can't be a vehicle, typically it can't be a vehicle that you use on a regular basis.
Okay.
But if there's occasional use and it's with permission, then the insurance on the vehicle is going to cover the driver of the vehicle. Now, if the driver of the vehicle has coverage on a second car that they're not in, then that coverage is going to be secondary. So as long as you have permission to operate a vehicle, your insurance is going to cover you. So that's the most important thing you need to know.
That may apply to a lot of times when you're renting a car too, right? Because a lot of times you say, I don't need this extra insurance, my insurance will cover it.
Absolutely.
You cross your fingers and
and believe me, right. I've told the rental people every time I get in one of their vehicles, and they're like, well, if there's damage to the car, I know if there's damage to the car, my insurance would have to pay for it, and I would have to pay the deductible. but they want to, their insurance is expensive.
Yeah, they'll make a fee off it.
That's right.
We've got Karen on the line with a question from Newmarket. Hi, Karen. Thanks for calling tonight. What's your question?
My question is, when it comes to underinsured motorist coverage on your policy and you're hit by someone else and your medical liability is maybe just $1,000, what's the purpose of it if the person who hit you doesn't have enough to cover all your medical bills?
Right. So
what is uninsured?
Yeah, so basically, you're talking about underinsured motorist coverage. And basically, underinsured motorist coverage is coverage you purchase on your vehicle that will pay up to the limits of that policy for injuries that are caused to you or occupants of your vehicle to the extent that the other party doesn't have insurance or doesn't have enough insurance. And in Alabama, the mandatory minimums for insurance is $25. So in many, many, many situations, we see that's not enough coverage, and you have to look to your uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage to make up the difference. So but they will pay for the value of your claim to the extent that it is, if they're underinsured completely, they'll pay up to the extent of the coverage, the reasonable value of the claim. Typically, underinsured motorist coverage is at $25,000 per car, and you can stack or combine coverages up to 3 vehicles in the same household. Now, I'll tell you, $25,000 is not enough. Underinsured motorist coverage. Get as much as you can afford, and it is really relatively inexpensive. So we try people, get 50, get 100, get as much as you can afford
for your household.
Right.
You want it.
But what it will do is it will cover your injuries and your damages to the extent that somebody else doesn't have that coverage, and that's important for you to have.
A little bit different question. We got somebody texting in a question about a non-compete. They say, I was recently laid off from my job. In order to receive a separation payment, had to sign an agreement that included a non-compete clause. I have a job offer from a previous client. Does that conflict with the non-compete clause?
I'd have to see the exact document, but in general, it typically would if you're in the same industry. Now, Alabama will not automatically support or some of these non-compete clauses can be invalidated if they are not reasonable in geographic scope or time frame. Sometimes that can be, what is the type of business you were in? Is it really a competing business or is it something else? But if you sign the document, you're going to, even if you didn't get real consideration for it, you're going to be in a situation where probably going to have to be, you're going to have to abide by it. I mean, they have to pay you for that, and that should have been part of the severance agreement. And just depending upon whether it was enough, I guess is what I'm saying.
Read carefully,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
Anything you're going to sign, read carefully. Got this email question from Lisa. Lisa says, I've started to look for a nursing home for my father, and I was told by one that I had to sign a form stating I will agree to arbitration instead of a lawsuit if they're negligent. Is that common? And not only is it common, does it hold up?
Yeah. Well, in the wisdom of the Alabama Supreme Court, yes, it holds up.
It holds up.
I've fought this for 30 years because it's not fair and it's not right, and it's basically senior abuse by the Alabama legislature and the Alabama Supreme Court, but it's what we got. And basically you're waiving, or they require you to give up your right to try your case before a jury if you are going to go into a nursing home. All the nursing homes have arbitration agreements. All of them make you sign it before they'll accept you as a patient. And then if they cause you injury, you're not going to be able to try your case to a jury. You're going to be stuck in arbitration, which is a much less generous forum for somebody that's injured.
Is it going to make any difference if I sign for my parent or if the parent himself or herself signs?
Oh, no. Not even if you don't have a power of attorney in the eyes of the Supreme Court.
They'll hold you to it.
As long as you are had permission, they say.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be specific or express permission. As long as you had apparent authority to sign for your loved one, then you are going to be held to be in arbitration.
That's not fair.
Well, it's just about money.
Yeah, that's all it is.
You know.
We're going to take a quick break. We've got more questions coming in. We'll be right back. It's Ask Us Anything Night.
an advertising fee to this station.
You're watching WAAY 31 Law Call, the Tennessee Valley's only live legal call-in show for 30 years and counting. Presented by the award-winning personal injury and wrongful death law firm Timberlake, League & Brooks, featuring the knowledge and experience of attorney Michael Timberlake, attorney Will League, attorney Heath Brooks, attorney William Meservey, attorney Bobby Marsh, and hosted by family law attorney Sharon Doviet. Your rights, your calls, live. This is WAAY 31 Law Call.
Welcome back to 31 Law Call. It's Ask Us Anything night, and Michael Timberlake is here from Timberlake, League & Brooks. They have something special that they did. Was it last year?
No,
and we're throwing a party?
4 years ago.
It's been 4 years already.
4 years. Yes. So the World Cup comes around every 4 years. Last time the World Cup came around, we threw a little party in front of our office with some of our friends for the United States games. We're going to do that again on June 12th at 6 p.m. in front of our office downtown. It's a free event. We're blocking off the street. All the restaurants around will have refreshments available. So we're going to try to have the biggest watch party for soccer in Huntsville history.
That would be great. Looking forward to that.
Everybody,
That's fun.
Please come.
Been in the planning for 4 years.
A long time.
We got in a text question. Okay, is it legal for someone to sell their home if they're currently in a nursing home? They're currently receiving rehab services and it's not a long-term patient as of now. They also receive Social Security, disability, Medicare, Medicaid. Will those benefits be affected by the sale?
I guess the first thing is yes. I mean, you can, even if you're in a rehabilitation facility, you can sell your property, you can sell your home. The biggest thing that you're going to have is what is going to be the effect of potential, need-based benefits down the road, like disability benefits, Medicare benefits. Those are not going to be interfered with if you come into money because you sell your home. Medicaid will. So you will not qualify for Medicaid if you have over $2,000 in your bank account and monthly income. And if you are looking at being admitted to a long-term facility, typically Medicaid is the one that pays for that, or you're paying out of pocket. So if you have money in your bank account from the sale of your home and you need to go into long-term care, you are not in Medicaid, you're not going to qualify for Medicaid, you're going to have to pay for your long-term care. And you can't just sell your house to somebody else and then qualify.
Okay.
They have
or give it away.
Or give it away.
Don't give it away.
Yeah, don't give it away. There's a 5-year look-back period. So that if you say, oh, I sold my house, but I spent all the money, you're still not going to qualify for Medicaid. They're going to look back 5 years from the date of the sale, the date that you're trying to qualify for Medicaid, see if there were any asset transfers. If there were asset transfers, then you're most likely not going to qualify.
Okay. Got a text question. Which is better, a will or a trust? A will or a trust? They're very different.
They're very different, and a lot of people from different states come in and think that estate planning is difficult, or that probate in certain states can be very difficult or expensive. In reality, in Alabama, it's a very simple process, and it's not expensive in terms of moving through an estate and passing down your assets. So in Alabama, 9 times out of 10, a will is going to be beneficial. 9 times out of 10, you can work through a situation with an attorney where if you have a will but you have assets, you can still pass most of those assets outside of your estate, without a trust. So really, setting up a trust is a complicated legal document. It might be beneficial to some people, depending on for large estates or complicated estates, or for certain purposes, adult disabled children, things like that. But generally, a will is the best vehicle.
You're talking about some things can pass outside of the will. So like if you have life insurance and you leave it to a specific person, that's not going through probate. That's exactly where it's going. It's going to that person, right?
So it's, there are ways you can designate beneficiaries on a lot of things. Your retirement plan, 401k, you can designate which person gets that. You can designate bank accounts, you can hold that with right of survivorship. You can hold real estate, real property with right of survivorship, so that when you pass away, it just goes to the other person that's on the deed. So those are ways that you can, pass property outside of the estate. You don't have to go through probate. And that's something you have to work through with a lawyer, but you can save a lot of money on the front. By spending a little money on the front end, you can save a lot of money on the back end.
Got this text question. I have a question. If a sister dies and leaves in a will her home to her 2 sisters, and then one of them dies, does the other sister get the home, or do her children get it?
Right. Typically, it would be something that would be, set in the will, and for, if she would designate if one predeceases and the other one go. But if there's no specific language in the will, then it would pass to the sister's children. 2 children would get half, and then the other sister would get the other half.
Okay, Donna's writing in and says, okay, I'm wondering, do red cars actually cost more to insure? Do you know the answer to that?
You're wearing red.
I'm wearing red.
Is that more expensive?
It means I drive faster.
That's exactly right. I think that's a little bit of a misnomer. What you look at, or what insurance companies are looking at in these situations, are the types of vehicles, the typical behavior of the type of person that they're insuring, their age, demographic, their geographic area, what kind of car they're driving. Those are the kind of things that they're really going to look at. And then obviously track record. If whatever your driving history is, that's going to be front and center.
Maybe the police pull you over more often.
Yes,
maybe.
I think that's
true.
I think that's kind of the kicker. The police will especially sports cars, red sports cars, you might get a ticket more often.
Yep.
They say white cars are the most safe in terms of visibility on the roadway.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Gray is bad.
Black
is bad.
Okay. Do you think about that when you're buying cars? Visibility, that kind of stuff?
Sometimes you think about it, but it's always it's a personal preference.
Let's talk a little bit about homeowners insurance. So we talked about car insurance. Homeowners insurance can cover things other than home problems, right? What would homeowners insurance also cover that people would be surprised about?
Right. Well, typically when you buy a house, if you have a mortgage on your house, your mortgage companies require you to have homeowners coverage that will pay for damage to your property if storm damage to your property. If your property burns down, the mortgage company is going to want to be protected. But in addition to that coverage, homeowners insurance provides the homeowner liability coverage for things that could happen at their house. So that if you have a neighbor that comes over and they're injured as a result of something that you do on your property, then your homeowner's insurance will pay for those damages. Now, there's different levels or tiers of liability depending upon if it was a business person you invited over to your house or if it was a neighbor, but in general, they'll pay for those damages. They will also pay for damages for your conduct that may be negligent off your premises.
Like what?
They will not pay for motor vehicle wrecks. You have to have, your own car insurance for that. Okay. But we've had cases where we had a lady that was in a grocery store and she had a kid that had got the cart away, and ran into our lady and caused her, she fell, she broke her hip.
Oh, wow.
And so the child was at fault and the mother was not watching the child. So the homeowner's insurance coverage in that situation covered it. We've had cases involving firearms that are, as long as there's not criminal activity, if someone was injured as a result of a firearm that was discharged, that happens. Dog attacks. If you have a rider for a dog on your homeowner's insurance policy, it will pay for that as well.
Interesting. I wouldn't think of those with homeowners insurance. Talk to us a little bit about swimming pools. So we're getting to that time of the year when everybody's enjoying their pools.
Right.
But there are some extra liability things that you ought to think about, especially if you're in
This goes
cities,
out to my friends Todd and Lori out in the country, and they ask about their swimming pool.
Okay.
And I told them, look, you've got to have, in city you have to have, there's ordinances about, gates. It has
fences,
to be fences, certain heights. But I tell everybody, I say, look, regardless of whether you're required to by ordinance or not, whether you have a swimming pool, it needs to be enclosed in an area where you can make sure that people do not have access to it or children do not have access to it without anybody being there, and that it's clear that it is not what we call an attractive nuisance. It was something that people would go to. So, make sure that everybody knows that if you're not there, you can't do that. Covers are a great option for that, to keep a pool safe when you're not there. We also say that motion cameras are really, really helpful in terms of if someone's getting access to your pool and you're not there, you know what's going on. The other thing is just monitoring the situation. Make sure that if there are large numbers of people in the pool, that we got somebody watching, knows what's going on, especially if there are children around.
Yeah. We got this email question from Tony. Tony says, my dad is one of those old school guys that refuses to wear a seatbelt around town. So we've had big blow-ups about this when he rides in my car especially. Besides the obvious physical risk, am I at any additional liability risk if one of my passengers refuses to buckle up? And if you have the accident and somebody's not wearing the seatbelt and they're injured worse,
right,
does that affect what kind of recovery you're going to get?
Well, I mean, so in Alabama, failing to wear a seatbelt in and of itself is not evidence that you've done something wrong or that you contributed to an incident that would deprive you from being able to collect damages for your injuries.
Okay.
Now, it's always something that people try to, defense attorneys for insurance companies will try to weasel that in there and this, that, and the other. But in general, it is not a relevant fact in most situations. Now, if it is if it's somebody that's injured as a result of what we're claiming that the car was defective, the restraint system or the airbags didn't work, and you weren't wearing a seatbelt in that situation, that can create a lot of problems because the seatbelt's designed to hold you in a specific situation, and the other systems don't work unless you're properly belted. So there can be situations where it can really be a problem. I don't think, is there any more responsibility for the driver or less? No. But you do want to make sure that you encourage everybody to buckle up if they're in a vehicle.
You think the jury takes it into consideration if you're trying the case?
A jury's going to want to know, and if they don't find out, they're going to assume the worst. So it's really kind of one of those things where we say they shouldn't take it into consideration,
but they may.
But they may.
We're going to take a break. Be right back. It's Ask Us Anything night.
Brooks, which pays an advertising fee to this station.
If you didn't get your questions answered tonight, here's how to get in touch with Michael Timberlake with Timberlake, League & Brooks in Huntsville, 256-536-0770 or 800-804-2502. The website is law-injury.com. And if you like them on Facebook, you can learn more about the law that way.
And Sharon practices family law in the Tennessee Valley. She does divorce, child custody, and the like. 256-539-7337 or www.sharonfamilylaw.com.
Thank you, sir. If your insurance company offers to let you waive the underinsured motorist coverage, we can save you a little money.
Yeah, we talked about underinsured motorist coverage. It's coverage you absolutely need. You can waive it, but you have to sign off. And if they say, do you want to waive this uninsured motorist coverage? You want to say no, because if they cannot produce a waiver, then you are entitled to coverage.
Thanks for all your calls and questions. We'll see you next week.